Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Self-Care Summit, where we are learning how to cope in the midst of global crisis. My name is Melanie Wood. My business is Soul Ease Massage and Mind Body Therapy, and I work in Elmira, New York. Today, my guest's name is Annah Elizabeth. Hello, Anna. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Thank you.
And Patches.
And Patches too, yes. So we have
Yeah,
kitties sometimes, we have doggies sometimes, we have all kinds of different guests today.
yeah. This is the bonus guest.
Awesome. Love it. So why don't you and Patches tell us a little bit more about yourselves?
Well, I am the Annah Elizabeth from the Five Facets of Healing. I have an office based in Elmira, New York, but I do work globally. All the work that I do basically helps people turn struggle into success and heartache into healing. And what we mean by that is we all have struggle, we all have conflict, and as you know, this time of in our world, it's really crazy. So we just help people identify where their struggles are across the five facets of the self, and then help them tap into resources that they have so that they can move forward with whatever goal they have, even if it's just to find peace for a few minutes.
All right. So I think if I'm listening to you, having no idea what the five facets of myself are, can you tell us more about that? What are the five facets of me?
Yep. So the five facets are the universal gifts that we are all born with. They're the exact same gifts, but the details that comprise them are different. So it's the academic facet, which is an ability to learn, the emotional facet, which is an ability to feel, the physical facet, which is the physical environment and the physical body. The social facet is the ability to connect to the world around us, which could be humans, animals, plants, or nature, or places. And the spiritual facet is that divine self within. It's the soul that knows, the part of us that knows our hopes and dreams, and what some people may call that purpose or higher calling. And so how we relate to each of those facets, the lens that we see from them is sort of they're what drive our success and suffering, and that exist in a hierarchy, to put it in real simple terms.
So basically all the parts of you show up that you listed, all those parts of you show up in different ways at different times, and it's about finding some balance and how to negotiate those facets within
Mhm.
yourself. Does that sound right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And nothing is seldom black and white, right? And so they intersect and dissect and cross-sect, and so it's just helping people. So I always say when people feel overwhelmed, it's because there's so many moving pieces up here that they might not be able to identify immediately. And so just sort of helping them identify them and make them so that they're manageable, so they're not, as I say, like ghosts batting us in the dark. Once we can see them and identify them, then we can be empowered to do something about them.
All right. Well, it's definitely a time of overwhelm right now. So a lot of people are probably experiencing parts of themselves and have parts of themselves that are stirred up, that they're like, oh, where'd that come from? I haven't seen that part of me in a long time. Or they're being introduced to new parts of themselves as we, kind of brave through this new world that we're living in, where there's a lot of unknowns. Can you tell us more about specifically maybe how your clients or you in your business or you personally are handling the COVID-19 pandemic?
So for me, it was an easy transition because I have an office here, but I also work globally. So I already had virtual platforms, and I was able to transition people, or at least to offer that, what I thought would be seamless. What I'm finding with so many of the people that I work with is so many of us were just really kind of blindsided. This came out of nowhere, and our lives were literally, for many of us, turned upside down. As you non-essential workers, colleges shutting down. I have, I'm in a private part of my house, kind of, but I have 3 children who came back. One was traveling and with travel bans. He had to have a place to land. 2 college kids that came back. So what I'm finding is people just, even though their sessions were already prepaid, they just were like, okay, people went into just like almost shock
Yeah.
mode and shut down for a period of time. And what I'm seeing across the board now is people are very quickly adjusting. They're doing what you're doing, this summit. One of my friends in California that I work with in the industry that I work with in that part of the bereavement world, we're having a happy hour Zoom meeting with 4 of us from literally all parts of the United States on Thursday. So I'm optimistic, even as the conditions tighten and the numbers become more doom and gloom every day. I see people rallying and people saying, okay, we're not going to be defeated. And how can we get creative in what we're doing? How can we continue to connect, do, be, serve, work, live? And so I'm really inspired by that, by people's creativity and what they're coming to in the midst of something that many of us have never seen.
Yeah,
Probably.
I agree with you. I'm super inspired too, not just by how people are banding together to support each other as a community and to make sure that they're staying in connection with each other somehow through technology, but also the bravery and courage and support and love that those who are still considered essential, they're showing up every day. They're not running away from their jobs. They're not turning, away from
Right.
patient care, away from our federal prisons, our state prisons. They're not turning away from law enforcement. Like the cogs are all still in place.
Yeah,
It's
and
all
I have
brave.
goosebumps when you say that. I mean, um, yeah, there's so much of that, and the people who are being, their jobs are being shut down. I see them in their own way stepping up to be brave too. And one of the things, I don't know if you've heard this, Melanie, but the government and the CDC, everybody's using this term social distancing. And with the social facet, right, it's one of those 5 parts of the self, and it happens to be at the top of my hierarchy. And early on, I'm like, social distancing means social disconnect. And
Oh,
um, somebody said, actually a psychologist that I work with said, it's really physical distancing that they're doing. And there's a part of me, I keep wanting to write that article, and but maybe I'll have an impact on the CDC, right? But that really true. So for people who just putting that into perspective, that it really is a physical distancing, that we can still be social like we are now. And to everybody that's watching and that tunes in now and later, thank you, and know that we see you and we hear you and we align with you and we feel similar things to that you, and all those are social connections that are important. It's a empathy and an understanding and a compassion, right? That is all part of our humanness.
yeah, I think that there was a great many of people, myself included, that kind of just sat still for a couple of days in that unknown and went, oh, I'm alone. I'm really alone, because I found that I rely a great deal on feeling fulfilled by showing up to my job every day. Some people might call me a workaholic. We'll talk about that a different time.
Yeah, that's
But
a whole nother conversation, as
it
they
is
say.
a whole different interview. When they interview me, that's what we'll talk about. But yeah, so I'm like, wow, what? And so part of doing the summit is for my own sanity and staying connected, and I'm speaking even as an introvert who loves being alone. I'm finding that that social connection, it doesn't mean that you're alone. It really is just physical distancing, and I'm grateful for that term. It is floating around in different communities that I'm involved in. It's just physical distancing, and folks are even trying to find ways to stand out on their porches and still hoot and holler and do fireworks. And that was talk in a different interview that I had about how the community is getting together to say, we're still here, we're still here. We can see you. We can't come close to you, but we can see you, and we can still support each other that way.
Mhm. Yeah, actually, so an acquaintance of mine posted on social media last week. She and her husband are used to having date night.
Mhm.
And after a week of being shut in, they're like, okay, we want date night. And so they dressed up in their finest. She was in her little black dress, and they ordered takeout from one of their favorite places to support that business. And they watched a movie in, but they acted as if. And I thought, how cool is that? And this morning I was actually thinking, I think I want to go put on one of my little black dresses and just parade around.
Must have. I
So
took a
many
shower
people
today.
were talking about, another friend of mine from California, she's like, I don't even care that my sweatpants are stuck to me. And she is, I mean, she's an executive professional, so she's wearing the dress suit every day. And um, she is enjoying that. But at some point in time, it's like, okay, I'm tired of this now and I want some normalcy. I'm like, okay, so we can still do that. What seeing this post was like, we can still do that. It's just different than the way we've always done it before.
Right. It's an opportunity to get creative, and
Mhm.
I love that example of date night. That was my turn to get a little bit some chills on my skin, it's a little
Yeah.
goosebumps on my skin. The idea of just finding a way to connect. I mean, you can get your takeout. You can even do a Zoom date with somebody, whether it's a girlfriend or a partner or a mate or anything. You can still get your candles out, get your dinner, get your glasses of wine, and dress up and look nice. We can get creative this way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you. I'm as I'm sitting here and I'm talking about all these fun things and these strategies, and but the other reality is, I was like you mentioned that you kind of went in, and so did I. I mean, I played endless rounds of Candy Crush on my phone and watched Hallmark movies on,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, just literally on repeat for hours and hours and hours. And I was just kind of sitting like, oh, I have all this work that I want to do and I need to do. And yet, what the F, pardon my French for anybody who might find that offensive, but what is happening?
yeah.
And then also worrying about my clients, as I said, they were shutting down, and how can I support them, and all of those things, right? So there is that period, and that will come and go for all of us. I don't know if you will experience that, but I find I'm up and I'm high, and it's like, okay, I'm going to tackle this, and then it's like, oh, okay, one more round. I don't know about you, but I'm very, very selective on a regular basis of the news that I watch. And now I really want to be informed and aware. And it's really important because the laws are changing, as we know, every hour. I mean, one minute you were essential and the next you weren't. And it's like, okay, now what do I do?
Exactly.
But I am super, super selective in what information I seek out so that I don't get overwhelmed. But even at that, like when I see it and I hear it, and my mom from California messaged me, and she's like, there's 23 deaths just in our county. And then an hour later, I get a text. She goes, no, it's actually 23 diagnoses. Is big difference, but it's like that. She's out there by herself, and she's in her 70s, and
Yeah,
uh,
it's a roller
yeah.
coaster ride for sure, and we really don't know what information to trust necessarily when it's on media. So, have you found that since you are limiting yourself and you only go to sources that you can trust, is there a specific place that you're getting good information from?
So most of what I rely on is I go straight to the CDC website itself, because they seem to be very up to date with their information and some of the laws and the regulations, and I know that their links are going to be accurate links to whatever government sites that I need to address. And the other one, this is a site that other people might not have general access to, but we have a small farm that we operate. And so we're a member of the New York Farm Bureau, and we have been for 30 years. And their information coming out, it's nonpartisan, non-biased. It's just, just the facts. It's
Mm.
just details. And again, they have links to reputable sources here's where you can find whatever information that you need. And they do post, they have an updated site where it shows the number of confirmed cases of the coronavirus by county. I have looked at that a few times. I refresh it like once a day, just one, out of curiosity, but two, so I can see in our own county, okay, how is that? How are those numbers becoming exponential? And it helps me to make a decision. Okay, do I want to go to the grocery store? Don't I want to? And just more to be safe than anything. That's the only place I go to. How about you? What sources are you using for information?
Well, I have a nightly date night with Cuomo, so he puts me to sleep.
Right.
I am not somebody that has a crush on Cuomo. I don't want to marry Cuomo, but I give myself that time when he's speaking, and I let it. I don't hop right on when I know he's live. I go through my day and I get everything done in my day that I want to get done for me and for the people that I'm connected with. But I do listen to what Cuomo has to say, and I have a news feed app that's installed, so I'm looking at statistics as well, and that's all. I'm not reading any of the articles. I'm just looking at the statistics to see how close to home it is. And I do scroll through Facebook, but I try not to click on anything or be influenced by any of the titles, because a lot is opinion, and I don't, for my own safety, I don't want opinions right now, because there's a lot of opinions out there. I do want facts. So yeah, I think CDC is a good place too. I've stayed away from that as well, because I want I know I'm social distancing, I'm physical distancing right now, and I'm hopeful that that means that I'm not going to experience symptoms. So I'm not on there monitoring symptoms, so I don't wake up every morning and go, oh, my throat's
Oh,
dry. Do I have it? Oh, my chest is, because I do have respiratory symptoms right now. Do I think it's COVID? No, but I think it's the dry air in my house. I think that it's
well, I'm right
seasonal
there with you.
allergies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I haven't, so whereas you have a date night with Coma every night, I'm not seeking the CDC information daily. Like I'm not going there daily. However, similar to you, so I started having some like some symptoms in my lungs, which we heat with wood. So I'm out working around that, and there it was smoking a lot. So I thought, oh, well, it's just from like breathing in that smoke. And I was a smoker for 26 years, 13 and a half years smoke free. So for any of you that are watching that are trying to quit smoking, you can do it. Just a little plug there. I have faith in you. You just have to find what works for you. But coming back to the CDC website, so I did. I'm like, okay, knowing that that's one of the symptoms, it's like, okay, I'll go straight to the source to say, okay, what are the other symptoms? Because you hear things, like you say, through media, you see it on Facebook, and so many of these things can be coming from a place of fear. And so for when I need information like that, okay, what are the true symptoms and what do I need to know if I do experience those symptoms? So that's how I'm using the CDC website
Yeah.
for that kind of information. Yeah.
Yeah, and just for the record, for any of my clients that might be watching this, don't worry, I haven't had a temperature, I don't have shortness of breath, I don't have there's no fever, no, none of that.
Right.
I really
Right.
do believe that it's just dry air, but your mind starts to tell you stories. I do believe that this is maybe an allergic reaction to some dust that's blowing around, it's some pollen that's blowing around. But yeah,
Well,
my head started telling me stories like, oh, you have it. You better go get tested. You
do,
better go.
do you? Do you? And actually, it's one of the things to point out as well. So stress and anxiety can actually create symptoms in the lungs,
Yes.
like so it's different from a panic attack, but that feeling and that just from that tension in the lungs from the stress So it could be just that. And so yeah, my mind did that too. It's like, because you hear all the hype and the panic, and I went into the grocery store 2 weeks ago, and we all have been there, and literally like Sam's Club, I just went for my monthly groceries, and Sam's Club shelves were bare. I've never seen anything. I went to Walmart bare, and I was like, what is happening? And so it's hard not to feel the impact of that sort of chaos. Even if we're not around people that are panicking, you can feel and sense and see with our eyes that. And we do have to work hard to minimize that sort of anxiety created from a situation like this, a global crisis like this. And it's hard. It's hard when we're quarantined, right? And when we're not able to connect with people the way we normally want to. And my dog Patches, so the kids you may hear them moving around, but we don't think about things like that. She's a rescue. She came from a lot of trauma in her background. And so when things are different, it's unnerving for her. And so I have a dog that is anxious because of all the changes in the house. And those are really real losses and experiences that people are facing every day. And that's one of the things, coming back to the 5 facets, is being able to recognize that when the dog gets anxious, I get anxious because I don't know how to help her. And so being able to recognize that in myself and say, okay, what do I know and what things can I do every day to minimize her stress? Because when I minimize her stress, then hopefully I'm minimizing mine, so it doesn't become a vicious cycle. And so everybody watching, please just know that all of those little things, they're real. I mean, are you seeing any of that in your house, Melanie? How these little things are sort of creating the disruptions and the anxiety that might be contributing to some of that.
Well, I mean, it's all my own doing. So yeah, I mean, my son was here for a bit, but he's like, meh, whatever. I don't have to go to school, so he was really super chill about all of this.
Right. Yeah.
So
Well,
it's all me, you know. It's my own doing and undoing, and that's part of, like, this summit gives me an anchor, so I'm connecting with people every day, and but I'm also looking into the heartbreak and the grief of all of this, and where I'm not worried about me specifically. I'm worried about our world right now, and I am finding that I'm grieving a little bit. And I know that you have a history with grief and teaching about grief. Do you want to speak to that a little bit, about how much of an impact grief could have on folks and the world right now?
yeah. So one of the things that I've said is I think that the real fallout from this global crisis is going to be a while down the road. I mean, there are people who are going to experience some post-traumatic stress symptoms down the road, which is different than post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder. But some of the anxiety and the fear. But the biggest thing is just coming back to what I said, and for people to be able to recognize that grief isn't just about the death of a person. And as humans, and especially in our culture here in the United States, we tend to put the death of a person as the ultimate loss. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. It might be in somebody's situation, but it doesn't have to be. And so what happens is we tend to minimize all of these other losses and say, well, I shouldn't be feeling this way because somebody did just lose their loved one to COVID, or they have somebody in the hospital and they can't go visit them. And so my situation is nothing like theirs. And the program, I created a 5-part program that has a focus on how we heal conflict, how we find resolution in conflict and grief. And at the foundation of that is that if you have a loss experience that creates some sort of suffering, pain, discomfort, anxiety, then those are grief responses. And if people can just honor that, honor each of those little losses that they're facing, and try not to compare it to other things, they will have a better chance of finding healing in the moment and recognizing those little moments of healing. And that's the second piece, really, is that we oftentimes think that healing is a destination, kind of like happiness, right? And
Yeah.
healing and happiness are both just micro moments where we experience peace, joy, harmony, balance, love. They're just, if we can just pay attention to those micro moments and allow the two to coexist, really, that's in this short little segment, that's the best that I can offer. But for people to realize that there are very real losses. And I was just thinking about this morning, but there are some people, I know we're mostly, our audience is the non-essential workers, and giving gratitude and reverence to the essential workers that are showing up every day. But there are likely many essential workers who are carrying some sort of survivor's guilt, that they have a salary, that they don't have to worry about their income or where their rent is going to come from or where their mortgage payment or car payment is going to come from. And for them, that is also a real form of grief. And it's a whole nother tangent, but all those little side things that on a day-to-day basis we don't think about as loss events, and that could cause grief. So yeah, I hope that answers your question without being too long-winded.
No, it's great. It's good to bring this stuff up because bringing it back to like something physical. I've always told my clients that, who are like, oh, I just have a little bit of pain compared to this person who has a lot of pain. And I say pain is pain. There are folks that when you are in the midst of a full-blown cold and you can't work that day, you can't tell me that that pain is less than somebody who is experiencing cancer pain. We all have a common cold, can be the same pain as cancer pain, and cancer pain can sometimes feel better than a common cold pain. So we all experience, whether it's physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, anguish, anxiety, worry, any of that, we all experience it to our own level. And it's really a personal level. Like, is my pain up high today? Is my pain down low today? So there isn't a comparison. We truly are all in grief, worry, fear, unknown, gratitude, joy, reverence, respect. We are all in those all together right now, every single one of them.
Yeah, and one of the things that I say is I can relate, rather than I know how you feel, because I don't know how you feel. I know how I felt when I felt these different emotions and the physical pains. And this is if you can't laugh, right? And when and laughter is the best medicine. But I always say I am the biggest baby when it comes to a headache. I mean, I can work like a mule all day long and have physical pain and be okay. But if I get the slightest little bit of a headache, I am the world's biggest baby. And I have a husband and a daughter who have migraines. And I can only begin to scratch the surface of what that must feel like to them, because I know that my headache is just a headache. And yet for me, it can stop me almost dead in my tracks. Like, and I think, how do somebody with a migraine survive? And yet that's one of the things that, what is so right for one person is so wrong for another. And one pain that might be tolerable, like my daughter she'll go for a week on end with a headache, and I can see it in her eyes. And for her, it's not her worst pain. So, it's like you say, we can't compare. We can only, because we are individual, and that's at the foundation of everything that I do, is helping each person to recognize their own individuality and what things mean to them. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters,
Mm-hmm.
is what each of us needs to feel whole and safe and talking about this, and then fulfilled and being able to follow our passions and coming back to this whole creative thing. Like you had a need, this workaholic self that you said, and not being able to fulfill that was causing you anxiety. So how do I heal that anxiety? And those might not have been the words that you used, but okay, how do I heal that? And how do I get what I need? And so you put this together, and gratitude, right? Gratitude, because it's bringing people together in many ways, and what we need. It's serving you, and it's going to serve the people that will serve along the way too.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
getting creative in what we need, and or recognizing what we need and finding creative ways to create that for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so the self-care summit. I know one of the things that you asked me in the questionnaire when you sent it to me was, what am I doing for self-care?
Yeah.
And so like a whole lot of things, right? I'm continuing to walk, taking the dog for a walk because she loves her walks, and we donned a raincoat and an umbrella and went out today, this morning before the summit. So I'm doing a lot of that. As I said, self-soothing with Candy Crush and Hallmark movies, for a while. It was like, okay, I am trying to continue to like eat healthy and maintain that, the exercise. I'm enjoying my children who are here for a short time, and yet, striking that balance where we all kind of have some autonomy in the house, and because we all live differently, right? They're grown. Trying to enjoy those moments and recognize that, okay, today I don't have the energy to do anything.
Yep.
And I have to be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
That is a form of self-care that we don't think of. We think of self-care as the hot tubs and the bubble baths and the massage and the yoga and those things. And sometimes self-care is just saying, okay, I really don't have the energy to do anything today, and I'm really down, and I feel really bad, and I can be okay with that. Everything in life sucks right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I can be okay. What's going on around me isn't okay, but I can be okay in the face of it. And then allow myself to do those things and not beat myself up and say, you have these 6 projects that you really could be maximizing right now, that you have the time and you don't have the clients, and they're sitting here on a pile next to you. It's so easy to get caught up in that. And so just to say, okay, tomorrow's another day, and the next hour is another hour. So those are the things that that I'm doing for self-care. What sorts of things are you doing in addition to the summit and bringing people together? And
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd be the first one to admit that I was a blob for about the first 4 or 5 days. I let myself be a blob until I could figure out. I didn't, but at the same time, I was also trying not to jump the gun on anything. I was like, oh, I should, all those online classes that I wanted to create, I should do that, and I should do this, or I should go get a job at Wegmans temporarily. And I'm like, whoa. So I let myself kind of be a blob for a few days to prevent myself from jumping the gun. Because like I said, I noticed not only panic buying, like you mentioned at Sam's Club and Walmart, but there's a lot of panic selling that's happening too. And I didn't want to be lost in that stream of panic selling and trying to desperately get myself out there and stay out there in a way that would come across as more buzz, if that makes sense. I don't want to be buzz. I want to actually be helpful, both to myself and to other people. And I'm doing the stuff. My yoga mat's out. You can see my foam roller and my yoga mat right behind me. It stays out, so I do it. I'm making sure that I'm getting enough sleep. I'm also walking. I'm out in the woods, and for my Facebook friends, they see pictures of me being outside just about every single day. Um, I did bake some really yummy stuff. So a lot of people are saying, "Oh, I'm eating so well." Still, I'm like, I baked, and it tasted great.
I made a huge pot of vegetable beef soup, homemade soup. This was like literally the day after I came back from the grocery stores and was like, whoa.
Yeah,
I made like 10 quarts of it and froze some, and
yeah.
yeah, it's I I am trying to lose weight, so all of that yummy baking doesn't serve me very well. But yeah, I've been thinking about that too. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
I think one of the most important things that I did for my self-care was I found my core support group of people that I'm normally besties with, and we can gossip and we can talk to each other, and we can, we are our go-to group. I found the people within that go-to group um, that I could say anything I wanted to too. So I have those people that I can just, if I'm feeling emotionally needy, I can text that to these people. If I'm feeling excited about something, if I want to joke around, inappropriately joke around about what's happening, I can do that privately with these people. So
Right.
I found my core group of people that love me unconditionally, accept me for who I am, and even when I make jokes that are so inappropriate, they're like, we're going
Oh, glad to know I'm not the only one.
we're going to ignore that because we love you, and we'll see you when you come back out of that abyss.
Right. And I'm finding with that core group of people too, one of the things that I love is being able to express that, but also we're able to just have normal conversations.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
it's conversations that are about just daily life, and like you say, the jokes and the need to be who we are, but to be able to go on not ignoring and denying the fact that we are in a global crisis, and yet just being able to live beyond that crisis. I think that's so important, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because that is another real true form of self-care,
Mhm.
right? Being able to just be who we are.
Be authentic, and to be able to ask for what we need.
Yep.
So even if this group of people, even if they're not on the same page as me, even if they're not in a place where they can even stay present to where I'm at, I can say, I just need to put this here. And maybe they'll come back to it later, or, I don't expect people to answer my messages right away, but it's there when they are able to come back and say, oh, I acknowledge you with where you were at and what you needed at that time. So, I mean, putting aside all insecurities and asking for what you need is huge at a time like this.
Yeah, anytime, but especially at a time like this. Yeah, I mean, really, right? That's being able to be human and have our needs met, and then to also be able to grow. I mean, sometimes when people aren't responding right away, that's when we really sometimes are able to answer our own fears, or work things out for ourselves. And yeah, it's one of my big things is, how can I help somebody help themselves when they're in crisis and they don't have their go-to people immediately available, and right, so that's that balance again. Sometimes they're there right when we need them, and sometimes they're not, but being able to have that safe space, as you said, where you could just be you,
Hmm.
that's so huge, and it is self-care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even just forming the thoughts and putting it in writing in a text message, that's
Mhm.
sometimes, whether it's
Getting it
out of the,
out of the body.
exactly, out of my
Get
head.
it, yeah. Yeah, out of the head, out of the body, out of the emotional release, all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
whether they acknowledge my being an idiot, or they acknowledge me with, consoling me or soothing me or just relating to me, whatever. It's validation and acknowledgement that you're allowed to feel. You're allowed to feel right
Yeah.
now. Feel any way you want.
Yeah. And we need that as humans. I mean, we need that validation sometimes that, yeah, we're okay, and that it's okay to not be okay. Those two things, yeah, they're really, really important.
Beautiful. So if you could imagine that you were talking to the entire world right now, every community, every person, and everywhere right now, what would your words of wisdom be to the community at large, the community as a whole?
Yeah, so really my big thing is hope, right? When we have hope, then we have something to get up out of bed after those copious hours of Candy Crush. Just hold on to hope that things will be better for yourself and for the rest of the world. And because when we have hope, it recognizes that things aren't where we want them to be right now, but that we have the ability to move forward towards what we want, whatever that is. And so hope is a big, big thing for me. And so I would say hold on to hope, keep returning to hope, and just keep, as you said, Melanie, recognize who your real core people are, because they will help lift you up when you don't feel like you can lift yourself up. And remind us that we're all in this together, and that's all part of the hope thing too. So yeah. I wrote a memoir a few years back, and the title was Digging for the Light: One Woman's Journey from Heartache to Hope. And when I sign those for people, I always write, may you always return to hope. So yeah, that would hope. Just hold on to hope, people. Neighbors, as I call, we're global neighbors. Global neighbors in grief and allies in healing. So yeah. What about you? What would be your message to?
Hey, who's interviewing here? I'm
Well, hey, you get you give me hope, and I'm curious. I mean, really, I'm just curious, not to put you on the spot or commandeer your summit, but
I'm teasing you.
That those different perspectives, right?
Right. And yeah, and I think that there's been little tidbits of me have been showing up in every single interview. But so I'm just gonna, there was a Facebook post out there from one of my friends, and she said if you could write the ending to this in 3 words. And my comment was, this too passed.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
So I'll keep it simple. This too passed. And every day in its own way is passing.
Which is a form of, right, hope and promise for the future, right? Hope implies promise for the future, and you see the promise in the future. So yeah.
Anytime my grandmother and my great grandmother and various other people in my family would we would go to them with problems or challenges and stuff, and my grandma would always say, this too shall pass. So the ending is this too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. And I believe that we will all come out of this on the other side, with learning and growth, and many of us not without heartache and hardship. But I always say healing is a choice. And if we are able to honor our grief and yet to choose healing, the healing doesn't deny the grief. It just shows that they both coexist. So yeah. I love that you see the promise in this, because I do too.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if folks want to get a hold of you, if they want to stay in touch with you, how would they do that?
Uh, so my website has a bunch of articles that I wrote over the last 10 years. That's www, all spelled out, the 5facetsofhealing.com. Facebook, I do have a Facebook page with a private group. It's called Hump Day Healing. And I've jokingly thought, okay, it's Hump Hour Healing. Maybe I'm going to do something with that, because right now it's by the hour, things are changing, right? But Hump Day Healing. So join, reach in, and please feel free to submit articles. The whole premise of that is to allow you to express your griefs and your sadnesses without feeling like you're being a Debbie Downer, but then to also share the good things that are happening in your life without feeling like you're rubbing something in somebody's face who's down. It's really honoring what we've talked about, is grief and healing coexist. Good things and bad things coexist. So it's a safe space for people to share and interact and get some support. So that would be a good place for people to land now. And if somebody wanted to reach out, they can email me through the website, or the email is heal@the5facets.com. So yeah, please, anybody that needs some support or has some questions, my door's always open.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being willing to have this interview today. I appreciate that you hopped on and that you gave all of your own little bits of wisdom through what you've created and through your experiences. So thank you very much.
And thank you. It's always a pleasure, Melanie, always.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yep. Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye. We will see you. Let's see. What's this? This was number 9. So we will see you for video number 10 tomorrow. Take good care of yourselves. Bye.